Good afternoon. So today I'm very excited to sit down with one of our oldest partners to explore firsthand their experience using GYDE365 design, where they delivered a successful Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central project. So the conversation is a chance to go behind the scenes, looking at how structured the design workshops were with the automated documentation and guided decision making that shaped the project from the early discovery stages all the way through to deployment. We talk about what worked, what surprised them, and how GYDE365 design influenced collaboration, scope, clarity, and the overall project quality. Most importantly, we'll hear how the tool helped them accelerate delivery while keeping the customer engaged and confident throughout the whole process. So we will start with an introduction to Dennis and your team. Dennis.
Thank you, Carl. My name is Dennis Lupambo. I'm the MD of Mint Africa. That's the business we use to do business across Africa. Over to Regis.
Thanks, Carl. Thanks, Dennis. Good afternoon, good morning, everybody. My name is Regis Utaguera, and I'm a project manager with Mint. Pleasure to be here. Looking forward to a productive engagement. Abdul.
Hi, everyone. My name is Abdurrahman Omar. I'm a GYDE365 techno-functional consultant working with Mint. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Right, so let's jump straight in. So tell me about the project.
Right. The project is for a diversified investment holding company in Zambia that has interest in both mining and energy. In this particular context, they have 6 subsidiaries in the company that they wanted us to implement an ERP solution for. The solution of choice was Business Central, Microsoft Business Central, and we also gave them PaySpace as the option for HR and payroll. In this particular discussion, we're going to focus on Business Central because we used the SIA platform to do the analysis and design. The project kicked off on the 27th of November last year, and we finished the analysis and design on time, 3 months after the start date. You're on mute, Carl.
Of course. Thanks, Dennis. So what were your expectations going into the analysis and design phase, and how did GYDE influence or reshape the expectations?
Yeah, I think the key expectations were, first of all, to inspire and mobilize the organization around the ERP solution, to make sure that everybody was excited and would contribute as required during the analysis and design. And so we envisaged, in terms of mobilization, company by company, I talked about 6 subsidiaries. We envisaged key stakeholders from each company to be involved, including the CEO of each subsidiary. We also wanted to carry along the group team that provides oversight across the group. So a team of largely about 40 people in total. And, the GYDE design platform was particularly useful because we were able to enable all these different, super users, as we call them, to collaborate with us on an ongoing basis. We had, daily calls that were very well attended, and the homework was done on the platform, and we were able to, with a slow start, but end almost on the deadline that we envisaged for analysis and design. Most important of all, I think the client appreciated the transparency, the ability to mobilize the organization, track progress, follow up on outstanding actions. It was a fantastic tool. I mean, as as you might imagine, during analysis and design, there's fatigue that settles in. And I think largely because of the platform, it was, work and play. I can say that, part of it, I mean, there's a lot of work to be put in, but the platform was, because of its collaborative nature, I think made it fun as much fun as can be expected under the under the circumstances.
I'm glad we made it fun for you. That's good. So, and how did the structured questions and the guided decision points in GYDE365 design help you clarify the business processes and requirements?
Right. I'm not sure whether Regis, if that is for you or Abdul.
Yes, I'll take that. So,
Yes.
well, the guided questions in Guide 365 really helped us to navigate to the more granular requirements and save a lot of time. So, ideally, what happens is the consultant will focus on the high level picture, then later on move on to the more granular requirements. But with Guide 365, it accelerated the pace and helped us to move forward to the narrower requirements and help see things that might have sufficed much later. So things like reporting requirements, things like approval hierarchies were able uh, to be noticed and were able to get granular requirements on that at an earlier stage. So with that, the deeper questions that were able to be presented by Guide 365 Discover really helped us to achieve that.
Excellent. And which parts of the tool were most valuable for helping you to articulate the 2B processes for Business Central?
Well, for the 2B processes, and this actually is my favorite, I'll say is the process flow diagrams. So we have the process flow diagrams that are incorporated into the questionnaires. So we are not only limited to text descriptions, but we also have the leverage to utilize process flow diagrams. Not only us, we can even tag the clients, and the clients can articulate it as detailed as possible. So that's the first thing that really helped us to articulate the 2B processes. Another factor is its integration with other tools like SharePoint links. So with that, the client can give us some information that is in SharePoint through Guide 365 Discover. So with that, it didn't force us to limit ourselves only to the platform, but also to expand the reach to get other resources through that platform. Yes.
Perfect. And did design help with any requirements or process gaps that you hadn't initially considered?
Yes, definitely. So the clarity of the platform really helped us to be able to navigate to some other questions. Like I said earlier, we had things like approval hierarchies, some complex warehouse processes, some procurement processes, things like that, that in some cases, in some projects, we'll find out such kind of detailed requirement really suffice at the time of configuration is where the consultants discover like we really need to move toward this direction. But by using the platform, it really helped us to see that at the earlier stage of implementation. So the deeper questions, the standard, the best practices that it had, the what I can say, the help navigations with the detailed documentation really helped to facilitate all this. So the platform really was a game changer for the project on this side.
And you mentioned the collaboration with the customers. So can you expand a little bit more on the internal stakeholders and the implementation team?
Yes, so on the collaboration of internal stakeholders and implementation team, it was a cohesive collaboration. And what do I mean by that? So we have the sessions, the requirement gathering sessions, and sometimes they are not enough to capture everything. So the platform allows us to tag the clients, to tag the stakeholders. Sometimes you can even tag the consultants to respond to certain matters. So by tagging them, we are able to make the clients or the consultants do their homework on the background. So we are not limiting them only to work during the sessions, the requirement gathering sessions, but also outside the requirement gathering sessions, which really helps us to get high quality inputs, which is a game changer for the project.
That's really good to hear. The fact that you're working both with the customer as well, that's really good. So what impact did the automated documentation, the outputs and the requirement summaries, I know you did a lot of work around that. What did that have on your confidence in the project scope?
I think I can take that. I'll also say it's probably another one of the big game changers. If I'm looking at the output documents, I think they added a lot of value from a perspective of quality assurance, because we were able to ensure that, as Abdul said earlier, we're getting granular requirements. So we're able to verify and be able to see that we've got consistent requirements, that our requirements are complete. And if there are gaps, through the documents, we're able to spot the gaps and go back to the client to say, okay, can we attend to this? The other benefit that we derived from this also is that when we got the DevOps output, for example, we were able to use it to come up with the user stories that formed part and parcel of the business requirements documents that the customer was signing off. And obviously, because the whole process was collaborative, the customer was able to relate to the content of the document. So the documents are not really technical documents that people just sign off, but they ended up actually being business requirements documents in the true sense that they spoke the business language and highlighted the technical design considerations and ultimately drove the ownership of the requirements from the users. Last but not the least, these user stories also, we are looking at them being very useful for us in tracing the requirements throughout the life cycle of the project. At configuration stage, how are we managing the individual tasks that are being done, and how are we updating the customer, how are we reporting to the customer? All this is coming from the requirements and driven by the output that we got from the system. And obviously through the test process as well, we expect this to be very useful. So the outputs have helped us manage the quality and also the consistency of our operations from the requirements all the way through to the life cycle of the project.
Thanks, Regis. And were there any other areas where GYDE365 design made the decision-making process easier or faster for you?
Yeah, I mean, just to add on to what Regis mentioned, because the platform lends itself to collect so much data during the analysis and design, you have this, wealth of data that you can slice and dice. And in this day of AI, we were also, quite frankly, able to use AI, for example, to generate user stories, but without the data that was available on the platform, that couldn't have been possible. So I think the platform is also future ready in that sense, because of the data it allows us to collect. It's lots of data that you can slice and dice and make decisions from, and maybe Abdul can actually add on to that in terms of decisions
Yes,
that were made.
yeah, spot on, Dennis. I totally agree with that. Maybe just to add on that is two things. So we have the documentation for the specific question. So for example, if you go to manufacturing module, you'll find out that some of the things are very complex, and they help the client to understand what kind of response they need to give. So you have these help navigations that take you to screenshots, take you to some documentation explaining some processes, which really helps the client to understand the kind of response that they should provide to that specific area. So such kind of ability, such kind of capacity that is provided by GYDE 365 Discover really sets it apart and really helps to accelerate decision making. And another part that really accelerates decision making is uh, the system is in a way that it provides the platform provides some choices. So you have multiple choices based on best practices that are currently supported by out of the box features in Business Central. So this reduces the ambiguity and helps clear the doubts on anything that and helps the clients to just select what applies to them rather than just leaving them with an open-ended question. So that also really helps to expedite decision making in the project during requirement gathering sessions.
Carl, maybe let me go a bit off tangent on that as well. There is where it helps to make the decisions. It's a technical decision. But I think for me, where I'm sitting as a project management person, I'm also looking for early adoption of the system. So it also supports the decisions to a great extent. What do I mean by that? If you look at customers, most of the time they issue tenders out with vague requirements, right? And when they make a choice, they are crossing their fingers and toes and saying, we are hoping we've chosen the right system. But when you look at the way the whole design platform is designed and the collaborative nature of how we work with the customers in the refining of the requirements and making the design decisions, it sort of gave the customer a lot of confidence to say we've made the right choice in the system that we've chosen, and we have the clarity in terms of what to expect out of the system. So that those two things are very critical when you are looking at the system, when you're looking at the adoption of the system itself. And so it may not be facilitating the decision making, but it also goes beyond to support decisions that the customer made for purposes of ensuring that early adoption is sustained, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, and maybe just to add on to what Regis has said. Initially, when we had the site visit with the customer, the CFO was very keen on diving into Business Central and experiencing what Business Central is all about. But it is interesting when we did the 3-month analysis and design exercise. I think the platform, because of the questions that were asked and the input that they needed to provide, was so comprehensive that none of the finance specialists even asked to say, let's see what this looks like in Business Central, which is really interesting, because obviously we didn't want to be distracted by such questions, although the IT people that felt left out, to be honest with you, were the ones asking about having a look-see in terms of Business Central. But the super users whom we really wanted focused on requirements, were not distracted. I think they, building on what Regis said, they felt very assured that they were being asked the right questions, and that if they provided the right inputs, the solution will be implemented accordingly. To this day, there hasn't been any agency or request of, give us a sneak preview of what the solution will look like. I think they're quite comfortable that if they do their work in terms of giving us requirements and we do our work, the solution will come out exactly as expected.
And how well did the tool help you or the customer understand the standard capabilities of Business Central versus where customization might have been needed, for example?
Yeah, let's have Abdul answer that one.
Well, the tool, the depth of questions from the tool really helped us to understand the capability of Business Central, because it was not only asking high-level questions, but also delving deep to the finer details of the questions. So, for example, you have a process like supply chain, it dives with the outbound processes, then it dives down to the bin capacities, the zones and all that. So, that level of hierarchy and that level of depth, it really made a big difference in that area. So, you can say that the tool really helped the consultants during the requirement gathering with the kind of depth that it had, and by that we were able to delve into much depth of the different processes that were being addressed by the platform.
Yeah, maybe.
So that,
Sorry, carry on, Abdul.
yeah, so that's the first part, and also the other part is on the documentation that I've mentioned. It's not only a tool to capture requirement, but also a tool that has documentation and has everything cleared out. So that's another component that really accelerated that. Over to you, Dennis.
Yeah. I think I've forgotten what I wanted to say to add on to. I found your submission quite
Yeah,
impressive.
I think it's quite elaborate, but if you speak to the customization, the way the project was designed, it will we were able to go to we agreed with the customer in the beginning that what we're going to do is lead with transformation in mind. What did that mean? That meant we want to adopt as much of business central capabilities as possible and only get into customization when it's absolutely impossible. Now, Dennis, you remember when we said that in the very first place, they were all up in arms to say, how can that be? We expect a customized system. But as we dive through into the granular details that Abdul was talking about, they actually did discover a lot of opportunities for themselves to transform. What did that end up with? Where a customer was probably asking for 20 plus requirements on customization. Abdul, how many are we left with now? Is it? There are not that many. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but more than half have been shelved. So it was very useful in that sense, because we all know that customizations are one of the areas where we get scope creep, we lose time and potentially money as well.
Yeah. Actually, what I wanted to say, Carl, was among us as a partner team, it forced us to have a common approach to analysis and design. Because, Abdul has got two other team members that are working on the project. And I can assure you that without such a platform, each one would have pulled us in their own direction in terms of this is how I know best to do analysis and design and so on and so forth. But the team as well, because it's the first time they came across it, Abdul included, they quickly found that it was actually very useful and wasn't lacking in terms of the previous experience. In other words, they didn't say, well, this is beneath what we normally do. So a platform for common collaboration, not only with customers, but in the partner and team, in making sure that the standard is, I think to the extent that sometimes the team were asking whether there's more, in terms of what we can extract from the platform. So that's a challenge to you, Carl, to scale your platform even more, because it's so comfortable to use and would be nice to have it as the entire platform that we use for analysis and design, planning, implementation, and right through implementation.
Yeah, definitely, and we strive to improve it all the time. That's for sure. So, and looking back or looking at your next project, is there anything you would do differently in the analysis and design phase based on what you learned from using design?
I think we're very fortunate, if I'm honest. First of all, I think it went very well. The one thing for me that the platform did for us was convince the customers to have daily 1 hour session per company, and which were well attended for 3 months. And I think, often when you try and do analysis and design, the customers are, too busy for this and they're in and out and whatever. But the platform sustained their interest and attention for 3 months. So for me, that was really good. Apart from 1 or 2 people attending, board meetings and audits and whatever, it really was. And even when they missed out, they could catch up easily. The history of who said what or who wrote what on the platform was also useful. So Top of mind, yeah, maybe I'm a bit jaded. I can't think of what would do very differently. But let me ask Regis and Abdul to think about that.
Well, from my end, I'll say that what I'll do different is introduce the platform to a broader stakeholders at an earlier date, so that they could get the benefit that we got while we were implementing using this platform, because of the depth of questions, the enormous benefits, the finer uh, breakdown of the questions to the finer details of the requirements is such a game changer. And I would really love that even the earlier clients use this platform. This is how advantageous it is.
Regis?
For me, I think next time we are putting together a response to any proposal, or when I'm engaging with the customer trying to sell the product, essentially I would definitely be looking at this, the questionnaire or the survey itself. I'm being honest, because there are so many responses that you can get out of there than and so many convincing points you can use to put together a winning proposal that I just wish I was using, instead of using the general Microsoft literature to do the responding.
Yeah.
It's
And
very
maybe,
easily put. Yes.
yeah, maybe to add on to that, Regis used Discover on this particular opportunity, although we thought that we would go with FNO and eventually settled on Business Central. But Discover did help a lot with the customer onboarding, if I can call it that, because although it was mainly the IT team, including the CIO, who were involved in the Discover, they really liked the platform. So when we told them during analysis and design, we would use a twin platform called Design, they were very keen. But it was only a limited number of people that were involved in the RFP that experienced Discover. But to Abdul's point, maybe as you win the project and right at the beginning, to socialize the platform to as many people as possible is useful, because yeah, I mean the customers love it, I think, in my opinion.
I think that's an excellent response, and that's great to hear as well that your customers love it, and also good responses on how you do things differently, including incorporating the customer sooner. I think that's a really, really good idea. So we're nearly out of time. Quick round the table summary of design from each of you. Dennis?
Design is a collaborative tool that allows mobilization of the customers, and is also fun to work with. I think it's as much as you can make analysis and design fun, this platform does achieve that.
Thank you, Dennis. Regis?
Well, for me, it's not just the process, but the support you get on the platform is also quite amazing. I don't know how many times I pinged Carl and received a response nearly instantly. Sometimes I would even be the one who gets busy and slow. But yeah, the platform is good. It's fun, as Dennis said. I can't say more about it, but even the support structure around it is quite superb. So I would say the tool is only as good as the support that is around it, and that's quite superior. Thank you.
Thank you, Regis. Appreciate that. Finally, Abdul.
Yeah, just to reiterate what has already been said, it's a collaborative tool that also enables mobilization between the users. So we're not only talking about the clients, we're also talking about the key consultants working on the project. So it builds that cohesion between the entire stakeholders of the project. So with this tool, it really is something that enables people to work actively and proactively. You have alerts that can be sent to prompt user, keeping them on their toes. So it's really a collaborative tool and something that in any project we need to consider using it.
Fantastic. And we are out of time. Gentlemen, I appreciate this very much. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And it's a pleasure working with you as well. And we will speak to you very soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Carl. Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you.